Hey guys, Cheri and Adam from TSN here. Today we are going to be talking about a frequently asked question, train more, eat less. I will be interviewing Adam on the common problems he has on this topic.
The hard stuff. Hello, Cheri.
Hello.
I'm getting drilled for questions.
Yes, here. Yes. So you're faced with the common topic, train more, eat less. What are some of the common problems you face when coming across this issue?
This is like, I always say to people, if it was as easy when you're trying to lose weight to train more and eat less, you wouldn't need us, or you wouldn't need a coach, you wouldn't need to go see a professional and ask for their advice. But the problem is that we're so always just trying to look for the latest and greatest diet as such, and everyone's changing and switching and trying all these different diets. They're ripping the weight off, they're putting it back on, ripping it off, putting it back on. And over the years of dieting, there's a lot of people that are always referring back to the first time they ever dieted. And you've got to understand, our body's built to adapt and survive to the surroundings that we're given. And it's smart. It's designed to keep us alive. And unfortunately, what worked for you the first time will not work necessarily the second and third time. And if you keep trying the same option again, it comes to a stage where people are lost for options. Nothing works.
Yeah.
So the biggest thing normally when you're dealing with someone in this scenario, let's say if they're doing a lot of training and eating very little, I've got a few amazing case studies of this, and everyone's got a genetic sort of metabolic capacity where how fast their metabolism can get, and there's some variances and outliers as well. But when someone's stuck into a stage where they've been chronic low dieting for quite significant periods of time and exercising to quite a capacity, there's no other option except for drilling them into the ground, and their health becomes a bit of a risk as well, because if someone's already training copious amounts and eating very little, for me, health is the number one concern right there. And to try and relay information as far as painting a picture for this person, it's a very difficult conversation to have, where what we've got to actually look at is looking at ways that we can sort of speed up the metabolism again. I always refer to it when you start dieting and going through that whole process, your body, when you first start a diet, it's like a V8 supercar. It's chugging away and burning a lot of calories. And over time, it learns to slow down to bridge the gap of the calorie deficit to keep us alive. And it actually learns how to efficiently burn less calories through exercise as well. So we actually, instead of running like a V8 supercar, we're down like a scooter sitting at the traffic lights.
Yeah.
And what we've got to do is basically reverse this process. And normally, you've got to paint a picture as far as where someone's at. So guys, if this is something you're struggling with, or you're finding that you're doing all this training and eating very little and nothing's happening, there's several options. Again, individual variability, everyone is different in their own right, but normally what we start to do is find out exactly sort of where someone's at as far as food intake. And once we sort of get that picture, then it's time to slowly start adding food back into one's daily calorie intake. Slowly, because if you punch in a calculator online and you see that, okay, this is the amount of calories that I've got to consume, and you go straight to it, your body's capabilities of digesting that food is not there, and it's in survival mode. So your ability to store body fat is very high and amplified tremendously. And again, we're going down to the evolution of the body, and what we're designed to do is adapt and survive. So normally what I do in this case is basically we get them checking in or weighing in multiple times a week, and it will be dependent. Again, protein is obviously one macro that we need to be focusing on as the most vital and important macro of all, and closely followed by obviously carbohydrates and fats. We slowly creep the calories up, but through this time as well, you've got to think dieting is stressful for the body, exercise is stressful for the body, external surroundings and environment, stress for the body. So we've got to take this stress off and get the body from that scooter back up to the V8. So one is introducing food back in to help kickstart the metabolism. And the other is start slowly tapering down exercise to take additional stress off the body. And I also said before, is that our body learns to become very efficient at burning less calories through exercise. So a lot of people see, oh no, but I'm the cross trainer, I burn X amount of calories. It's not the case. Our metabolism is a never-ending, fluctuating line, and it will only adapt to those surroundings. So we're basically in this stage of someone who is stuck, where they're not losing off low food and excessive exercise. We've basically got to reverse that process and slowly build them up, take the stress off the body from low-calorie dieting, get their metabolism cranking at full capacity and trying to get it at somewhat a capacity where everything is firing the way it should. Digestion, immune system, hormones, everything as such. And severe low calorie restriction, the body's got to minimize what it does and doesn't need at that time to conserve energy to protect life. Once we slowly start building the calories up and reducing exercise, that's where we sort of see certain signs and symptoms as far as how the body is responding. Now, I've had multiple cases of men and women in this reverse diet or metabolic building phase often either stay the same or reduce weight significantly. And I've had one of my ladies around 26 kilos weight lost, and I've doubled her calorie intake and basically creeped her up over a longer period of time and reduced her exercise. And after that 26 kilos weight loss, again, we still probably have maybe 10 kilos to lose, but she's set up now where she's in a perfect scenario to actually start dieting. Why? Is when you're on higher food, you've got food or calorie reduction as a tool or as a weapon to use when a stall happens. Now, a stall is perfectly natural. It's the body's survival capabilities to be able to bridge that gap of a calorie deficit. So if we've got calories to drop, that's a great tool and a weapon to use. And not only that, is because we reduced the amount of cardio and training sessions she was doing, again, the body's not used to exercise or as much exercise as it once was. So guess what we've also got? Exercise to also throw in there as another tool and a weapon for when a stall happens. So this is where now, when someone is in that train more, eat less scenario and they've got no other options, number one, health is of a major concern and priority there. Yeah. So I'd like to explain and paint that picture as best we possibly can to set their body up to what it might be 30 kilos they need to lose, or whatever it may be. Then we start that whole process of getting their body running at full capacity so they can safely and effectively lose weight. But not only that, lose weight long term, because you've also got to think, what is excessive amount of exercise and extreme low calorie dieting, is that sustainable?
Yeah.
Absolutely not. So that's where we've got to look at ways that we can not only get their food up to something of capacity, because you've also got to look at, unless you're planning to jump on stage, you're going to be hit with birthdays, social gatherings, weekends away, and you need to have the fuel, and not only that, the knowledge and education to be able to get through these events unscathed and not have to worry about damage control every Monday when you walk on the scales.
Yeah.
So it's a topic where you could discuss so many different avenues with it, but I've just found it absolutely fascinating, because it's not you got to feed people up to make them lose weight. It's not that at all. You're actually stimulating the metabolism to where it's at a capacity where it creates an actual deficit again.
Yeah.
And obviously it is very difficult to try and tell someone who's been a chronic dieter for such a long, or a fat dieter for such a long period of time, that you've got to feed them up and take their exercise away to begin the whole process. And it's something that needs to be packaged very carefully when you're trying to explain that to someone as well. But there's a lot of factors, environmental, sociological, physiological, that you've got to take on board when making these decisions. And that's where, as a coach, obviously what works for one might necessarily have the effect on another, or the total reverse on another. So they're all factors you've got to take into consideration there. So the body's it's a pain in the backside, but it's an amazing machine at the same time. So,
absolutely,
yeah. So that's the whole train more, eat less side of things. Again, there's multiple scenarios that we go through when assessing a client for the first time, but more it's to get in here to help them understand sort of where their body's at and what we need to do to safely and effectively help them for their next dieting phase.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
You probably touched on it a little bit, but what exactly happens to the body when you do diet?
It happens to the body. It basically, as I said, when we haven't dieted before, someone's attempting a first diet, that's normally when they're really successful and it's like a challenge. How many times you've seen in the challenge? There's so many people. There's a group of people that just absolutely kick backside. Some do all right, and some lose no weight, and others just gain weight. There's a perfect example there. So people who've got an extensive diet history, their body's very smart and catch on to things very quickly. Whereas if someone hasn't dieted before, they're not going to see the symptoms of stalling anywhere near as quick as those who've dieted a lot. So you've got to think there's down regulation of our thyroid, our metabolism. Basically, our body learns to conserve energy to preserve life, and our whole metabolic rate, or the amount of calories our body needs to keep the lights on, starts to reduce as time goes on of periods of dieting. Again, you've got to be pretty chronic to make in the bodybuilding side of things, in the extreme that you take your body. Again, that's where like metabolic adaptation, the adapting of the metabolism comes into it. But our body is very smart. It adapts to the surroundings it's provided. So if there's energy out and energy in and there's a big gap, it's going to do what it can to basically slow itself down to bridge that gap to keep you alive, because that's its best interest at heart. It doesn't care if you've got a six-pack or not. That's basically where things are at as far as an evolutionary standpoint. So
amazing.
All good.
Do you have any tips for our listeners who are currently going through a diet, or anything considerations they should take?
Yeah, definitely. So if you're stalling, definitely have a listen back to as far as what I've said in regards to slowly increasing your food and reducing exercise. That's definitely an option there. Or simply, if you're not tracking and you've been eating clean, a calorie is still a calorie, and our body doesn't get the unicorn calorie fairy out and go, oh, that's a clean food, we're going to digest it differently. A calorie is still a calorie. So there's great tracking apps out there like MyFitnessPal, etc. So you might want to start tracking your food and just sort of see where you're at. The biggest thing that I find when people believe that they're eating quite well is they're very inconsistent as far as the amount of calories that they're consuming daily or their protein intake. So there's other factors that we can take into account to, I like to call dialing in the sniper zone, because there's different dieting methods as well. So there's counting calories, which is like you're walking on a road. There's plenty of room to move. You can count protein and calories as a total. That's like walking on a path. You still got a little bit of room to move, not much. Then you can count macros and calories together, proteins, fats, carbs, and calories. That's like walking on a tightrope. That's really dialing things into a sniper zone. So depending on what you want out of your goals, how much progress or how much time you've got, it depends on sort of what dieting solution or method that you can use for a certain individual. So, you might have 8 weeks clear and another 4 weeks where you sort of want to get yourself out of a dieting period where you go in the sniper zone and you are counting macros and calories and away you go. But then on weekends, I've got some people who are doing their macros during the week, and then they're just in counting calories on the weekend because it gives them a bit of freedom and flexibility as well. So again, I like numbers and statistics. I always say, you know, hips, waist, weight, photos,
Yeah.
and not only that, tracking your food and tracking of your training really gives you a clear picture painted as far as where you're at and what you need to do to adjust moving forward in your health and fitness program. So I hope those tips help, guys.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for
Thank
listening. And please reach out to us if you've got any questions in regards to the Train More, Eat Less topic. Over and out.
Bye.
Guys, we would love to hear from you. And not only that, is we're going to continually provide great content across multiple platforms.
So make sure you're following us on Instagram
Facebook,
and subscribe to our channel.